Genesis 37. And Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the livestock with his brethren, and the lad was with the son of Bilhah and with the son of Ziplath and his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that his father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and he could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in fields, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood around about and made obedience for my sheaf. And the brethren said to him, Thou shalt indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, and his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, I will see thee unto them. And he said to them, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with thy flocks, and bring me the word again. So he sent him to the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, Seekest thou? He said, I seeketh my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. The man said, They departed hence, and for I heard them say, Let us go down to Dothan. And Joseph sent after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay. And they came, and they said one to another, Behold, this dreameth cometh, and come now therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat, and his coat of many colors that was with him, and they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water. And they sat down to eat the bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites that came to Gilead with their camels, bringing spice and balm and myrrh, and going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is this, if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let he not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content, and then there passed the Midianite merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rented his clothes, and he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed the kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood, and they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found, known now whether it be thy son coat or no. He knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces, and Jacob rent his clothes and put a sack upon his loins and mourned his son for many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, for I will go into the grave unto my son's mourning. Thus his father wept for him, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt until Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Genesis 37 launches the fourth and final major narrative cycle of the book of Genesis, the story of Joseph. Literally, this chapter is a masterpiece of psychological tension, foreshadowing escalating family dysfunction. It marks the definitive shift from the generational wandering of the patriarchs to the tightly woven narrative that explains how the tiny clan of Israel ended up migrating down into Egypt. The tragedy of chapter 37 is that the sins of the past are perfectly mirrored in the next generation. That's deep. The sins of the past are perfectly mirrored in the next generation. Jacob, who deceived to the tear of his own Jacob, who used deception to tear his own family apart, now sees his family torn apart by his son's bitter deception. The chapter opens with Jacob, Israel, settling down permanently in Canaan. Instantly, the narrative exposes glaring, dangerous flaw within the household. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. Jacob walked straight into the exact same destructive parenting trap his parents Isaac and Rebekah fell into in chapter 25. Joseph, the firstborn son of his favorite deceased wife Rachel, and Jacob openly treats him like royalty. 17-year-old Joseph acts as a spy, bringing tales of his brother's misdeed to Jacob. Jacob gives Joseph a Kenthonet Pesim, a long-sleeved, richly embroidered royal tunic, and Joseph brags about the cosmic vision, absolute supremacy over his family. The text denotes a devastating breakdown of communication in verse 4. When the brothers saw the blatant favoritism, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. Every single greeting in the camp was toxic. Instead of keeping a low profile, Joseph pours rocket fuel onto his brother's simmering rage by reciting two vivid prophetic dreams. The agricultural vision binding sheaves of wheat into the field, when suddenly Joseph's sheaves stand completely upright and his brother's sheaves form a circle in the bow down flat to it. And then dream 2, the celestial vision. This time the stakes are cosmic. The sun and the moon and the 11 stars, representing his father, mother, and brothers, bow down to Joseph. Even his indulgent father, Jacob, has to step in and rebuke him for his pride. Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow ourselves to thee, to the earth? But while the brothers let their jealousy morph into murderous intent, the narrator drops a brilliant, quiet detail. But his father observed the saying. Jacob remembered what it was like to receive shocking countercultural prophecy of his own youth. Somehow later, the older brothers take the family, flock north to see the pastures of the land around Shechem, the bloody site of the massacre in chapter 34. Jacob sends Joseph 50 miles on a solo trek to spy on them and bring them back into another progress report. While Joseph approaches their camp near Dothan, wearing his brightly distinctive royal tunic, the brothers spot him from far away. The text records a chilling, sarcastic response. Behold, the dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him. The older brothers split into different camps on how to handle the murder plot. Reuben's plan, driven by his desperate need to regain his father's favor after his sexual misconduct in chapter 35, Reuben steps in to stop the execution. He tells them not to shed blood and throw Joseph into a deep, empty, watered cistern, secretly planning to sneak back later to rescue the boy. The moment Joseph walks into camp, they launch a violent assault. They rip the royal multicolored coat off his body and throw him into the dry, dark pit. Then, demonstrating an absolutely chilling level of sociopathic empathy, verse 25 notes, and they sat down to eat bread while their teenage brother is screaming and begging for his life from the bottom of a dark pit. They calmly eat their lunch. As they are eating, a large international commercial caravan of Ishmaelites and Midianites appear on the horizon. They are traveling down to the King's Highway of Gilead to Egypt, their camels loaded with a high value of resinous balms and myrrh. Judah, the fourth-born brother, who will become the dominant tribal voice, sees a pragmatic, highly lucrative financial alternative to murder. What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. The brothers agree to the corporate transaction. They drag Joseph out of a pit and sell him to the merchants for 20 pieces of silver. The standard ancient Near Eastern legal market price for a young underage slave, as documented in the Code of Hammurabi. When Reuben returns to the pit later, he finds it's empty. He tears his clothes in an absolute panic, crying, "The child is not, and I, where shall I go?" To hide the horrific crime, the brothers orchestrate an elaborate, calculated deception that perfectly mirrors the sin of their father's past. They march back home, present the blood-soaked tunic, shredded royal tunic to Jacob, and ice-coldly ask him to identify it. "This we have found, known whether it be thy son's coat or not." Jacob falls directly into the mental trap. He leads out a primal scream of absolute heartbreak. "It is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him." Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. Jacob tears his clothes, puts on a sackcloth, and enters a state of inconsolable, pathological grief. When his son and his daughters try to comfort him, he completely rejects them, declaring, "For I will go down into the grave unto my son's mourning." Genesis 37 ends a stark cinematic split screen in Canaan. Jacob is wept into the dirt, completely broken by a massive lie. Meanwhile, down in Africa, the final verse drops the vital piece of administrative context that will launch the entire next era of biblical history. "And the Midianites sold him to Egypt, unto Potiphar, the office of the Pharaoh and the captain of the guard." The dreamer has officially been dropped into the dark years of the Egyptian empire, but as the rest of the story will reveal, the brothers did not destroy his dreams. They accidentally acted as the exact human vehicles needed to fulfill them.